I assure you, I am not living in a prison cell. This is my home. This is my bedroom wall. It is like this and it's supposed to be like this. I like it. Anyway, welcome to today's video. So this is going to be a time-lapse video of a drawing, but my topic I'm going to talk a little bit about is how you have an idea and then you get over to the sketch and then you do your drawing, your finished piece. So like the whole creative process behind an idea. The idea I want to work with today is one I had like 2 or 3 weeks ago. I don't, before Christmas, a little bit longer than, anyway, I don't know when I had the idea. I had the idea of a femur, like this, the big bone in your leg, cracking open, and then inside of that crack you're going to see this ooey gooey bubbly texture thingy. It's nothing to be realistic, but I want to have a realistic bone, a naturalistic bone with this crack and then this texture, which does not have to have any relation to anything that exists. I just want to have this texture coming out of a broken bone, and decided it to be a femur. Might be that I'm going to do several passes with different bones, I don't know. Here's one of the funny things about being a creative person. Also in my job, I'm a freelancer, so I draw as a job, I animate as well, and I get paid commissions. And usually I work on my paid commissions, and then sometimes an idea strikes me and I'm like, ooh, that's a cool idea, I want to do that. And then I have this gnawing feeling that I want to, you just, if you have a sudden idea that you want to do, you have this urge to do that. So the rest of the day I have trouble concentrating on my actual work that I am working on at that moment. It's a curse. It's like when you're concentrating on something, then you suddenly go, whoo, a cat! I don't know. But anyway, I had that idea and I tried to focus on my work the whole day so that when I got home I could maybe work on that idea. So the easiest thing to catch an idea when you have one is you make a sketch. So the moment I was finished with what I had to do on that day, went out of my office, I went to the train station, I had my sketchbook with me. I always have a sketchbook with me. And while I was waiting for my metro train, like 10 minutes, I did me some sketches so that this idea is not lost. Let me show you the rough initial sketches that I did for this idea. You can see my very first sketches of the idea. I did not have a picture of a femur with me, of this bone, but basically it's like a big bone and you have one smaller part and then you have this part that goes into the hip, which is the actual connection to the hip bone. Or is the hip bone? I don't know. After I made this sketch, I realized that if I want to have this texture inside the bone, I need to be a little bit more close up. So I tilted my bone and tried what I can do like this. So with this one I was also not happy, but you could already see more of the crack. And so the third sketch is somewhat more what I was imagining. So I want to have the crack inside one of these bubbles of the bone, like in the smaller bubble, and then I want to have this big thing here, which is the hip, and then that you can see the texture inside here, like this strings pulling apart, maybe something bubbling out of it, and some splinters of the bone still that you can see that is, the outside is actual hard material that cracked, and the inside is something gooey, sticky, bubbly. That's my idea. Now, if you're a subscriber of my channel and you followed some of my latest videos, you might remember this automatic drawing exercise I did a few days ago. I've also continued doing that, but there was one image in particular, this one, this drawing here, which came out as a result of that exercise. And this is a texture that I really like. So even if I had this idea with the broken femur, with this ooey gooey stuff, weeks ago, I did not really know, I did not have really an idea of how to do the texture. But since I have done these automatic drawing exercises, I feel a little bit more confident of getting the texture the way I want it. So now I want to sit down, make this drawing. I'm going to record a time lapse for you and see if my result is more or less what I want it to be. And if not, there's no problem. I can redo until I get a result that's the way I want it to look like. And even if it's not like I imagine, it can still be an interesting result. Like this thing here, I just did it because I was interested in this bubbly texture, and I really like this drawing. It's the first one I made in 2019, so I guess I can say that this is a good start for me. So let's get over to the time-lapse video. I skipped a little bit of the pencil sketching until the point where you could actually see something on the paper. And also I decided to take the drawing a little bit more in close-up on different places, just because I wanted you to see how this texture develops. It is a mix of rough drawing, like just go where the flow takes me, and also exactly planning some of the lines. So I think this drawing has a nice contrast of freedom and control, which is also nice because the bone is the hard material and the inside is this weird ooey gooey thingy. Sometimes I went a little bit off camera. I cut out the parts where I was out of the camera for way too long. This is what happens when you concentrate on your drawing. You just forget that you're filming and have to take care if you are still in frame. Other than with the sketch, this time I used the reference so that my femur in the end actually looks like a naturalistic femur, like the bone is supposed to look like. So I had about 2 or 3 pictures as reference to look at while drawing. And here's the point where you always fear of messing up. I wanted to have one big layer of watercolor on this drawing with this ochre bluish tone already inside. So I just had to brush over the whole drawing. And then when it came to making the texture, because I also wanted to have a texture with the watercolor before I go into the watercolor details, or the coloring details, somehow my technique messed up a bit. It's not what I wanted to have as a result, and I had to deal with that. So after drying, you can see this is now texture that I have. It's still not 100% dry, and you can imagine this is not 100% what I wanted to have. Now there is the question, because I do this with alcohol, it's ethanol, so that's what makes normally this weird dot texture. So the texture that I wanted to have is actually like this. And it's funny because I tested this kind of stuff. As you can see, I tested it on different papers with different colors, with more color, with less color, and so these results, they went well, especially this one, the red one, and with the very few drops, and then with a very a lot of drops and also with tinier drops, and that they all merge into one another like this cellular thing, like they look like cells. That is what I wanted to have. But as you can see, this did not work here. So I don't know if it was because I had a much thinner layer of watercolor. Like I wanted to have first a thin layer of blue and do the dots, and then a thin layer of red and do the dots. Like I already did with some acrylic paintings of mine. That's why I also tested it with the watercolor, if the watercolor reacts the same way. Either I have too thin of a layer with color so to have this cool effect, or, and that's what I would set my money on, because I already have made one layer with this brownish ochre color. The paper was already a little bit roughened up, a little bit damaged, so the alcohol reacted differently with the paper. So that I don't exactly know. So now there is the question: do I let it dry completely overnight and try the same technique tomorrow again with another layer with the drops, or do I let it dry overnight and just directly start on working some details out and avoid letting it get worse? Anyway, I have to let it lay there, and I want to let it dry for a night because I really want it bone dry. Ha ha. So I'll see you again tomorrow. And here I'm back again. Had a good night of sleep. And now I decided to go strictly with the watercolor. So I guess my theory of the paper being already too damaged for this trick is the right one. So I went in and colored the background first with this bluish tone, and then I immediately did the inside of the bone, because those were the two color layers that did not touch, so I did not have to wait until the blue was completely dry. I decided to have a mix of something yellowy for the bubbles and this weird string texture in the red. I wanted to have this little bit of macabre feeling. Watercolors work very good in layers. So you have a thin layer of your color, and then you just deepen in the colors that you want to have, the details you want to have, at least when you're working dry on dry, which is what I like to do. So you wait until your layer is dry, and then you make the next layer. And in the end I went in again with some white acrylic. Took a little bit of white on a very tiny brush and made some highlights for the bone and a few of the bubbles. All in all, I am satisfied in the end with my drawing, even though I have this, you can still see where I messed up with the texture, but I think it gives a nice feel to the drawing. Not exactly what I wanted to have, but I like the outcome. This is just where the Bob Ross rule applies. We don't make mistakes, we have happy little accidents. Oh, and by the way, if you want, you can join my Patreon. I have a new tier online where you can get 2 or 3 more videos with insights on my current project, which I am not sharing yet on YouTube. So you can have a little bit of first-hand information and sometimes some insights. Hope you liked this video. See you next time!